In our last video, we corrected the floor and slab in our section here so that we could see it. We extended our slab out to the brick so that it would support it, and then we added, extended the floors out to the inside of the steel metal studs, and then you were supposed to do the third floor on your own, and then right here we did it for the roof, and so we got all that so that in our wall section. This is my wall section right here that I did called a wall section. And this is, of course, the wall section that you've been working on or of what you've been modeling. This is the wall section that I want you to print out. In the next video, I'll show you how to put these into a sheet and print them out to a printer. But anyway, so here is the section. What we want to do now is add text to it. As I showed you here, I already did that for all the layers here. You can see a 6-inch metal stud. I didn't go ahead and label the interior gypsum board. We'll do that when we get into finishes. But you'll see right here, there's the substrate. Oh, one thing is that this doesn't have the rigid insulation on it, so we're going to need to add that to it. And we need to also update my wall section A, but don't worry about doing that for this. I'll fix it for the next assignment. So what we want to add though is the wall, the rigid insulation, and then notice I didn't label the brick. Okay, so we're going to label the brick and the wall. The other thing you may have noticed is that I've used dots here. That's a very common thing to do in architectural drawings rather than arrows, because the dot is a little bit more precise as to this is what you're looking at, or this is what I want you to look at right here. And so what we're going to do is go ahead and label the brick here, the brick veneer. Okay, and to do that, of course, we can go in and you'll see in the text, if I select text here, you'll see that I've added to the text a 3/32 Arial, and I said dot instead of filled arrow. It says dot. Let's go ahead, and what we'll do is there's a 3/16. Let's just make a 1/8 inch. So I'm going to select this one, edit the type, duplicate it, and we'll call this 1/8 inch because that's what we're going to change it to, just so that you can see how to create this dot, because it's not a default. And of course we need to change then the actual size of the text, which is 1/8 inch. And then you'll see right down here it says leader arrowhead. Okay, that's called a leader. That little, and if we scroll down, we'll see dot, and you'll see a 1/16 inch dot, a dot open that doesn't have the black in it. I want a field, and I want a 1/16 inch, and I'm going to say OK to that. And now that 1/8 inch text, you notice it changed that. I didn't want it to do that. Oh, I should have also. I'm going to come back, edit this type, and rename it and call it dot too, so that I know that that's a dot. But I'm going to change this back to 3/32 dot. Okay, so it fits. And now let's add brick in here. So with that done, I'm going to go to annotations, and then text, and I'm just going to right here and go brick veneer. You could put common, brick common, or whatever. Just depends on the nature of the drawing. And then I'm going to add an arrow to that text. Let's select it. I need to move it around a little bit. We're going to add a leader in the other direction. And I didn't use the dot version of 3/32, so I'm going to do that. And you'll notice now it's a dot, but that's not where I want the dot to be. I want it to be on the brick. And also I want this to be up a little bit more space. And I'm going to click in here and make it so that it has the little bendy in it. And so now I've got all of those. I don't have the insulation done because this wall doesn't have that insulation. I'm going to go ahead and select these though and copy them in the same way that I did before. I'm going to hit copy to clipboard. And then I'm going to go to the section that you should be working in, which is this 13, the unlucky section, I guess. And what we're going to do is we're going to paste this, but we're going to paste it aligned to the same place, okay? And I'm going to do that, and when I do, it's going to align it, put it in here in the same place, and you'll notice now those dots are in the same location. What we have now is this moisture barrier, but we also have our insulation in here. So what I'm going to do before I copy this on up, I'm going to move a couple of these down, and I'm just clicking on the arrow, the down arrow. I'm going to do the same thing here on the plywood because I want it to be, I like for things, well, it's best if you do things from the inside to the outside or the outside to the inside, that there's a sequence to it, okay? And so here I'm starting with the outside and working my way inside, okay? You'll notice that it got just slightly off, and that's because of the thickness of this wall. So I'm going to select these and just hit the arrow one time. Let's zoom in. There we go. Okay, so that works a little bit better. The moisture barrier, you know, maybe should be an arrow, but we're not going to worry about it. I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to just grab the arrow and hold the control key down. And we're just going to copy this. And this is 1 inch rigid insulation. And then I'm going to refocus where my dot is so that once again it's kind of on top or right in the middle of that. Okay, my moisture barrier should be right there, and actually I probably have those in the wrong place because we should brick veneer. No, moisture barriers before rigid insulation. Rigid insulation is against the 3/4 inch plywood. Okay, so that's correct. And so now I've got those labeled. So what I'm going to do is just select them all again. Use my, now this time, since I'm working in the same plane, I'm not moving in the Z direction or moving from one drawing to the next. I'm staying within the view, not drawing, but within the view itself. I can hit the copy command. And what I'm going to do, so that it kind of goes in exactly the same place, I'm going to use a common place location from one level to the next. And that's going to be this beam here, the center of it. I'm going to select here and then go up here until I hit the same location. And that way I know the spacing is identical. I can copy it again, do the same thing, go from here up here. And so now I have it copied on all 3 floors. Not that you always need that, but I like to not have to look around and try to find definitions of materials. So that kind of defines our curtain wall. As I said, we'll get into more detail of elements that go, you know, that cap this, and in the next video we're going to cover roofs. And we'll change this roof up so that it has all the membranes and everything in it. Okay.